Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Twins Off Daily podcast brought to you by twinsdaily.com. I am Sweet Lou Hennessy here, joined with two of my finest compadres over at twinsdaily.com. That's Mr. Gregory T. Masterson. What's up, Greg?
Hey, how we doing? I just wanted to say happy Martin Luther Day. In honor of it, I went up to Cheap Polad's door and nailed 95 theses to So producer Lenny has told me that I have misunderstood the holiday today. Happy Martin Luther King Day.
Okay. Yes, right back at you. We got to see these theses, though, at some point. I'm very curious at this point.
By the Greg Media Guide, there will be 95 theses.
No free ads. Cody Schoenman is the other person gathered here with us. What's going on, Cody? How are you, dude?
That's a pretty big mess up, Greg. What was I going to say? I forgot what I was going to say. That's embarrassing. Dang.
How are you?
That's the most embarrassing thing that has happened today on this podcast.
No, wait. 1 second. Okay, so you said producer Lenny. I remember in your most recent Twins Daily article, your uncle is also Lenny. Is that correct? Are these two different Lennys, or what's the deal with that?
There's two different Lennys in this world. There's Lenny Kravitz. There's Lenny from The Simpsons. There's all sorts of Lennys.
Wait,
Lenny? Yeah.
Can people have the same name as you, but be different people?
Dude, there's like there's only one Cody's on that right for Twins Daily. You would know.
I guess, yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Anyway, I love that I said, Cody, how are you? And it just twisted him into such a knot. But we're glad to have you here, Cody. And you, our dear listener, we are glad to have you here as well. It's quite cold here in Minnesota from the remote studio that I'm recording from here. And that leads us to our walk-off question that we will try to answer at the end of today's episode. And that is, it is currently negative 12 degrees at Target Field. Feels like negative 29. What do you think would happen if the Twins or Major League Baseball was forced to play a game under those conditions? Negative 12 degrees. Ouch. So yeah, think about that. We'll try to come up with some answers ourselves, and we will get back to it at the end of the game for our walk-off question. But we have a pretty massive big inning here. We're going to move right on over to that, and it is our roster projection episode, our 26-man roster. It looks pretty much the same as it did at the beginning of the offseason. Am I wrong, guys? Cody, what are some just initial introductory thoughts on this?
I would say it looks the exact same. There's been literally no movement whatsoever.
Respect Mickey Gasper.
That's true, yeah. But hey, numbers have changed. I know Brooks Lee is now number 2.
Oh yeah.
Austin Martin, he's not on there, but he's 6. Or no, he is. He's number 16. So there's been some number changes. Michael Hellman is 1. So there are some minor changes. But overall, yeah, I mean, like as like a whole overview, I know we're going to go into position by position breakdown. I think that the starting lineup is pretty accurate. I mean, Castor's at DH. That's pretty interchangeable. You know, he could pretty much be anywhere on there position-wise. Before
we get too deep into the actual lineup here, we should say we are going off of the RosterResource Minnesota Twins the what they have on RosterResource, which is part of Fangraphs now. I don't know if they acquired them, but that's how you find it. At least at the top of Fangraphs, there's a RosterResource tab, and they do some pretty accurate, I would say, overall projections for each and every team. So that's what we're going off of, and then adding our own thoughts about who we could see in these different departments as well. Greg, any just quick intro thoughts on before we dive right in?
Yeah, I do want to say, as a guy who loves studying player numbers, I'm glad that Cody brought that up. For example, I was very concerned. I thought that both Austin Martin and Brooks Lee were very high-ranking candidates to get the number 2. I figured one of the two of them would end up as number 2. Though the storyline I'm watching right now is I really want to know who's going to be number 13 this season.
Oh yeah.
If you don't know what the significance of the number 13 is with the recent history of the Minnesota Twins, let me read off a list for you. Actually, going back to Mike Pagliarulo in 1993. Okay. We have only had a handful of names, and those are what's the opposite of a fan favorite, but Todd Walker was number 13 in 1996. Then there was almost a 20-year gap. Jason Kubel, on his second stint through with the Twins in 2014, wore the number 13. Did not go super well for him. Cult hero Aria Adrianza, who's back with the team now, wore it in 2019 and 2022. 2019 and 2020. Then we have 2021. It was Travis Blankenhorn's number.
Ooh.
2022, it was Trevor Larnach's number. 2023, it was Joey Gallo's number. And 2024, it was Manuel Margot's number.
Oh.
I need to know who is going to rock the number 13 this season. I can't stop thinking about how the funniest guy on the team is absolutely going to be rocking 13.
It's pretty on the nose that that's the bad luck number 2. I will say, I know Larnach switched his number like 4 different times in like a 4-season stretch. He's number 9 now, I believe, right? Yeah, yes. It's just kind of funny.
Yeah, I actually like paying attention to the jersey numbers too. When I saw that Brooks Lee grabbed number 2, I kind of had a thought to myself, and maybe I'll turn this into a Twins Daily article or something. But how good does Brooks Lee have to be to, like, how quickly could he become the best number 2 in team history? Some come to mind. There's really good players like Denard Span. Brian Dozier had a really pretty good Twins career. He had 4 or 5 years that were pretty solid. How quickly could Brooks Lee make it so that he's kind of the ideal number 2 that you think of when you think of this team?
What does he have to do to pass Luis Rivas this season?
Or Luis Arias too.
Yeah, Luis Arias.
That's probably not this season, but Luis Rivas. Like, can he pass Luis Rivas this year?
That's going to be our throughout the entire season. We're going to be just going off of their war.
Can I say one more point? One more point too, since we're on it, since we're talking about jersey numbers. I've always wanted Miranda to change his number to like a 20s number. Like, no. I think 64 is cool, and like I know that's what it was like in the minors too. But like 24 would be so pleasing, like aesthetically, to see him or something like that. That's just me. I don't know, but
that's fair. Yeah. That they should have retired 64 when Williams left anyway. So yeah, I agree. Can
you guys tell me who wore the number 64 between Jose Miranda and Williams Astudillo?
I can. Actually, no, I can't. Sorry. I know one from like the early 2010s that I just discovered.
It's Joe Ryan for some reason. I don't know that he ever wore it in a game. I don't know if maybe that was his number 74. When he got traded over. But apparently it's listed in between.
Interesting.
Weird. I remember when he made his debut, because he had like the super long hair back then. He was number 74. I think it was in like the baby blue jerseys they had too for that couple season stretch.
That was good. Yeah. Greg, I could see you getting a Joe Ryan number 64 jersey though. That's your next purchase.
That would be great.
That would be fun. All right. So what do we think? Let's dive right on into the starting lineup. We have it on the video screen here, but I'll read it off real quick just for our listening audience. So this is from RosterResource. They have Willie Castro leading off, playing designated hitter. Carlos Correa batting second, playing shortstop. Trevor Larnach batting third in left field. Byron Buxton cleaning up, playing center field. Matt Wallner batting fifth, playing right. Royce Lewis batting sixth and playing third base. Jose Miranda batting seventh at first base. And Brooks Lee, newly minted number 2, he's at second base batting in the 8 hole. And then Ryan Jeffers rounds it out, catching in the 9 hole. I'll start with you, Greg. This looks pretty chalk to me. What changes could you see being made here?
I think that at least like where they are right now, I think that this is the lineup they almost have to run out unless they feel really good about Edouard Julien. Like if he shows up for spring training and whatever ailed him in the past is kind of behind him, I could see him cracking the lineup potentially like at second base if, they don't feel great about Brooks Lee, or at DH, again, if they don't feel great about Brooks Lee and maybe moving Willie Castro to, being your opening day second baseman. Or I guess, if you want to like go full bore on the Willie Castro is a bench player, so we are not going to start him on opening day type thing. But like of the guys who are in the system right now, I think that the only person who could maybe change this lineup as it stands is Edouard Julien or injury. Am I out of line with that?
No, I don't think so. It probably depends on the handedness of the opposing pitcher
That
too.
too. Yeah.
It should also be stated, Rocco's somebody who juggles the lineup like constantly. It's pretty rare for him to have like a regular go-to. There's usually a game plan that you can pretty much follow each and every time, but he shakes it up a decent amount. Cody, any initial thoughts from the starting lineup that Roster Resource has projected for the Twins?
Yeah, I think it's mostly accurate. I think having Castro at DH is a misstep, though. I think, putting him at DH takes away the flexibility. So I wonder within this, because this would be a lineup against right-handed starting pitching, which they'll face, majority of the time. You have Castro in left field maybe, and then put Larnach at DH just so you can maybe move it. So then, say a reliever comes in and then seventh, you pinch hit, you can move Castro up to third base or second base, and you can just leave Larnach at DH. But that's kind of, being picky a little bit. I think having Jeffers ninth is low in the lineup too. I don't think that Rocco would put him ninth in the lineup. Again, you would probably, I'm guessing, would have Lee or maybe even Castro towards the bottom of the order in favor of moving Ryan Jeffers up. I also think 6 is a bit low for Lewis, but now I'm just getting into lineup construction. So I guess I would mix and match where players are. I don't know if this is 100% accurate as to what Rocco would construct against right-handed pitching. Obviously, against lefties, there's going to be more platooning. So guys like Hellman and Martin who are on the bench would get more opportunities if they are on a 26 man. I also am interested in how they're going to split up Vasquez and Jeffers. Will it be 50-50 this year? Will it be more 60-40? Could Jeffers get some DH opportunities and then Vasquez is the person behind a plate? And it's obviously, this is insinuating or assuming that they keep Vasquez, which is a whole different conversation. But, I think it's accurate to have Vasquez on the bench to begin the season, or if this was a hypothetical opening day lineup. But I think it's more 50-50 than Jeffers being the starter and Vasquez being the clear-cut backup.
Yeah, well put. Some of my initial thoughts that I had here was that I'm curious. We saw Trevor Larnach batting in the top 3 of the lineup against right-handed starting pitchers. We saw that pretty often last year. He was kind of probably one of the more trusted lefty hitters for the entire season. I mean,
he led off a lot.
Yeah, he led off a good amount. I'm curious if we see Matt Wallner doing that more, that he becomes kind of the go-to lefty. They want him to maximize as many at-bats as possible. So having him bat in the 2-hole, in the 3-hole, we saw that a little more later on in the season, but part of that was due to injuries too. So I'm curious if, hopefully, knock on wood, given some better health, I'm curious who the kind of top option to be in the as the top lefty slugger. So yeah, that'll definitely be worth tracking. Just real quick from each of you, Greg, what's the biggest storyline that you could see from the starting lineup projection here?
The biggest storyline, I don't know,
whether that's a positional battle, position change, anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, like I mentioned, I do think that there is just kind of, I don't know. I don't think we've talked about enough how suspect their entire second base group is right now, including even if you say, do move Royce Lewis over to second base, all of a sudden that maybe you have some solidarity. No, you solidify that position though. But then you're looking at third base and you're basically looking at, again, Brooks Lee, who has not proven himself, Willie Castro, who you'd prefer is moving around the diamond, not settling in at a position. You no longer have Edouard Julien in that mix, but you potentially have Jose Miranda, which would give you playing time at first base. I guess, I don't know. I also just think when you lay out this lineup like this, it hits you in the face just how badly they need somebody who can play first base or DH or something, just to give yourself a little bit more stability there. Those are the things that I'm watching right now.
Sure. Cody, how about you? What comes to mind as the biggest storyline for this starting lineup here?
Yeah, I think this storyline I'm going to bring up, you could say this for every, the past 3 years of the Twins, but it just all lies on the health of Correa, Buxton, and Lewis. Because say, for example, these guys are all healthy. They're all hitting very well. They all have WRC pluses in the 140s, 150s. I think the Twins are the best team in the AL Central when that is going on. But then say Lewis gets hurt, then okay, you have this hole at third base. You can move Lee over from second to third. You could move Miranda over from first, but then like Greg mentioned, who's playing first base? Is it Edouard Julien? Is it Mickey Gasper, who we haven't mentioned yet within this, the structure of the 26 man? So it's like this team is pretty thin on depth, I think personally, or just like depth that you can have faith in. If Lewis gets hurt, I mean, Miranda and Lee are good options to back up, but then it's like, what happens at second? What happens at first? I mean, sure. I know Castro plugs a bunch of holes, but still then like, okay, Buxton's hurt. Okay, so then is it Martin now? And then Correa, has to be out for 2 weeks. Okay, now is it Hellman? Is it Castro? Is it Lee? So it's like there's so many variables with health. And it's like this team is good at full health. And like I'm excited about this team on opening day. It's just like when we get to May and somebody's hurt, it's like, okay, are we back in 2021 where like Nick Gordon and Mark Contreras and guys like that are having, to play substantial minutes and we're losing every game. And that's just a scary idea to me, at least.
Yeah, no, that's going to be something to track for sure. I'm going to be this. Maybe this is a cop out, but I think my biggest storyline from the starting lineup here is how much could change by the end of the regular season. Hopefully, I think in like a 90th percentile outcome, 2 of these spots are occupied by some of the Twins' top prospects. Maybe Emmanuel Rodriguez cements himself as a, outfielder, a regular outfielder in the starting lineup. Maybe Luke Keeschel continues his meteoric rise and emerges as another option. I think that would be really cool if that happens, because it seems like every year the Twins are really competitive. There's some Edouard Julien who comes up midway through the year and is really just bones for them. Same with Luis Arias in 2019. He kind of came up a couple months into the season and was their leadoff hitter for the rest of the season, basically. So I'm curious to see which rookies hopefully could take over and cement themselves in that starting lineup.
I'm curious about like, as you bring that up, kind of how much, like where the Twins see it, like specifically Rodriguez and Keeschel, because those are the 2 big names that everybody's excited about who are knocking on the door. I wonder how much that kind of factors into their evaluation of potential ads, where like I want to, because there's a level at which however they evaluate these guys, there's a level at which you look at a free agent or a trade target and you say he's not worth, like I wouldn't take him over Keeschel and Rodriguez. And I'm really curious as to what that line is for them. Like how good does an addition have to be at, because I mean Keeschel could step in at second, at first, in the corner. Rodriguez could step in the corner and in center field. Like what is the line there that they are kind of pushing against?
Yeah, that's going to be really juicy to kind of think about here. And I think we're going to start getting some answers about that in spring training. I feel like Rocco, especially a lot, you'll see in spring training some given guy that he is starting, 5 out of 6 games for a few weeks in a row. We saw that from Brooks Lee last year in the spring, and people being like, oh man, he's really getting a ton of playing time. He's getting every chance to kind of win a job here. So yeah, maybe we'll start seeing that in spring training. But here, quick, let's move on over to the bench. We don't have to spend a ton of time on this, but Roster Resource has Christian Vasquez as the backup catcher, Edouard Julien as the backup infielder at a few different spots, Michael Hellman as a utility player, and Austin Martin as a utility player as well. Any quick initial thoughts from that, Greg?
I mean, I don't really fully. It's hard for me to say yes to Edouard Julien being on the bench, I guess, just like opening the season as a bench player. I feel like he's either got to be in the starting lineup or he's in the minors playing every day. Yeah. I mean, like, granted, as they have it constructed right now, you've got Willie Castro DHing on opening day. And like the really easy thing to do is just whoever needs a day off or is going to be assigned a day off the next day, Julien just slides in at the DH spot and Castro moves to wherever he's replacing somebody for the day. But it's a little bit tough for me to wrap my head around Julien just being a bench player at this point.
Sure. That's a good point. Cody, how about you? Any initial thoughts from this bench projection?
Yeah, I think to an extent, Hellman, Martin, and even Julien are kind of interchangeable names at this point. Sure. And I think a lot of it will come down to spring training. I know Deshaun Kersey, Mickey Gasper, Peyton Eels. Is that how you pronounce his name? Eels. I know Zips likes him a lot and expects him to contribute for the Twins this year, which we'll see if that happens. But I mean, I feel like there will be a genuine competition in spring. I do lean towards Julian making the team, just kind of based off past performance and merit and withstanding in the organization. But I mean, like Hellman and Martin could make the team just easily as Kiersey or any of the other guys previously mentioned. So it'll be very interesting to see how the bench actually looks as a team flies to St. Louis in late March.
Yeah. No, that's good to keep track of here. My point, I guess, was just kind of Greg going off what you said with Willie Castro. There's a very real possibility where he's not as good as he was last year, especially in the first half of last year. And just because he can play anywhere doesn't mean that he's going to be plugged in every single day. There's a world where he kind of turns back into the player that we saw when he was with the Tigers, in which case you don't want him playing every day, even though he can technically. So that'll be something to keep track of. For sure.
The other thing I'm curious about, like with how RosterResource has this set up, is, I mean, we all know that Rocco loves platooning, and like last season, I believe he had 3 platoon bats on his bench and a catcher. I think that was generally how it was set up all year, where it was Margot, Farmer, and Castro were essentially all platoon guys. Right now, they do have Trevor Larnach and Austin Martin flagged as platoon partners. So Martin would get starts in left field against left-handed pitching, which leaves Julian obviously on the bench again. And then Hellman, who is not flagged as a platoon partner. Like technically, I think that you could slot him in for Wallner because he does play in the outfield. That's not a scary outfield when you've got, when you've got Martin and Hellman in the corners. Nobody is really scared of that. But I don't know. It feels so strange to see a Rocco lineup where, like, justifiably, that is the one potential platoon that you could see, is that Austin Martin is coming in. So I don't know. I feel like that is definitely a hole that I don't know. I think that that's a clear sign that this is not what it's going to look like on opening day if we know what we know about Rocco.
Okay, real quick then, before we move over to the pitching side, I want from each of you percent chance that they add via free agency or trade to this lineup group for like a key contributor. So I mean like a good chunk, a healthy side of a platoon or a starting role. Percent chance you think that actually happens. Cody, let's start with you.
I'll go 70, and I think it'll be Mark Hanna or Austin Hayes. I think it'll be somebody like that.
Okay, Greg, how about you? Percent chance, and if you have any names that suit your fancy, throw them on out there.
70 was going to be my guess as well. If for no other like I don't know. I think I'm probably going to write this in the next week, but there's so many players that they have acquired after February 1st every single year. There hasn't been a single offseason where they have not at least added a like 10th man after the first of the year, or like an actual, like a starting pitcher. I don't think that there's been a single year that has not happened. Yeah. And so I assume that they are going to bring in somebody. I don't like, if you would have just said any like contributor, like any bench player, I would say 100%. But if you're saying like a borderline starter, I would say probably 70%. I do want to say that I don't know. There's a weird part of me that does feel like Mickey Gasper is going to crack this opening day lineup as an emergency catcher, or not. But like the fact that Austin Martin is the closest thing that you have to a platoon bat on your bench, obviously Gasper doesn't play the outfield, but you could easily see a scenario where Willie Castro moves to the outfield and Gasper DHs or something like that.
He's got the makings of a cult hero. I think he's going to have
He's got a mustache,
facial hair. He's going to have a great mustache. And I think he's just going to be a cult hero. And even if it's just one of those starts out really hot and then just tanks after, I think that fans are going to like Mickey Gasper. I don't know what it is, but okay. So 70% you guys said, all right, just for kicks, I'm going to say 71%. Ooh. And I hope that it's Justin Turner, because I think it would be so perfect for them to run an ad. Remember when the Twins used to have really creative and like funny commercials? I could see them doing that again and having Carlos Correa and Justin Turner burying the hatchet from the Astros and Dodgers World Series, and then shaking hands like Minnie and Paul on the Minnesota Twins sign. And I think that would be a gold mine in advertising for them. And I hope they listen to this podcast and make that happen. Okay, what do we think? Should we go on to the pitchies?
Yeah. Do you guys have anything else you wanted to add?
I don't think so. Let's get to the arms.
Yeah, let's roll over. Here we go.
Okay. So let's start with the starting rotation. No big surprises here.
Sorry. Can I actually ask you guys one quick question about the offense? I forgot.
Let's do it.
Of course.
If Christian Vasquez is traded,
Mm-hmm.
are you okay with them rolling out with one of Camargo or Diego Cartaya?
Yes.
Shout out Cody for predicting that on our last show. We didn't point that out, but he was all over that one. Are you guys comfortable with that?
I'm definitely comfortable with them taking a shot if that's what it needs to be. It kind of depends on the nuance surrounding the Vasquez trade. How much money are they shedding? Are they getting anything sort of in return? But overall, if you're just asking, am I cool with the backup catcher being either Cartaya or Camargo? I'd say yeah, because I think most teams, even competitive teams, that's kind of what you're looking at for the catching core. It's not an impressive group.
I mean, kind of in the sense that, backup catcher is obviously different. There's a whole caveat, but like if you look at it, your bench is then Cartaya, Julian, Hellman, and Martin. It's just like, oh my gosh.
Okay, and but is Vasquez really improving it that much?
I think within the stability of like his defensive prowess and the way that he manages a pitching staff, yes. But I know his offense is not going to be much better. But I still think there is a lot of value in Vasquez. But and then say Jeffers gets hurt, and then your catching tandem is Camargo and Cartaya, and that can be pretty bad pretty quick. But overall, I would prefer Cartaya to Camargo. So if the opening day tandem was Jeffers and Cartaya, I think I'd be fine with that. But there's something inside me that's like, that's not okay. Like
that's a very fair point. If Jeffers got hurt, that's something to consider for sure.
That would absolutely be up the creek. I do think that at bare minimum, and they generally do this every year, even if they do have a full catching core. But at bare minimum, I think that they need to bring in some sort of minor league veteran. I don't, if you look at actually like the pool of catchers that are still out there, there are a bunch of like quality candidates for minor league deals who could potentially play their way onto the major league team and like catch 50 games and nobody would care type of vibe. It makes my stomach hurt. I know, they've managed to stay healthy, and part of that could be because Jeffers is only catching like 75 games a year. But I don't know, like it might be something we just have to like retrain ourselves to tolerate, is just having like a true like question mark weak spot at catcher that doesn't come with kind of the name recognition of a Christian Vasquez, even if they're producing similarly. So fair. I just wanted to ask what you guys were thinking as the off season's gone on. I've come in more and more kind of okay with that potentially happening, I guess.
Sure.
Yeah. I guess ideally, like I want it to be Jeffers and Vasquez. Like I'm fine spending the combined $14.5 million to have that be the catching duo.
Very fair.
All right. Okay. I yield my time back to Lou.
We'll see about that. All right. Jumping over to the starting rotation. RosterResource says that Pablo Lopez, Joe Ryan, Bailey Ober, Simeon Woods Richardson, and Chris Paddock will be the Twins starting five. Like I said, no big surprises there. Any thoughts from you guys? Greg, what are some key storylines or something that you're going to be maybe keeping an eye out for?
I can't believe that Chris Paddock is still on this roster.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess obviously like off seasons don't just happen overnight, but it is, I don't know. I assumed that with it like a month ago, Chris Paddock would no longer be on this roster. And I don't know, man. Like, I'm almost to the point where I'm saying, like, if Chris Paddock is still on this roster, I would try to shove him into the bullpen. But as we're about to get to, there's not exactly a ton of room in the bullpen either right now. I don't know. I felt really good about what David Festa was doing at the end of the year. His stats didn't look great, but he was definitely trending in the right direction.
Yeah.
He ended the season really strong. And you don't really ask a ton more from a guy in his kind of first taste of the majors. I am curious about like what Simeon Woods Richardson is going to look like this year.
Sure.
If he pitched like consistently, like on the aggregate, what his overall numbers look like last year, I'd be totally fine with it. If we're dealing with like 6 ERA Simeon Woods Richardson, like we dealt with for, a couple months last year, I don't know how long for the roster he is, but I don't know. It's nice to, be able to look at Lopez, Ryan, and Ober and just like skip past them and focus on the other 2 spots.
Sure. Cody, how about you? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, well, there are decades where nothing happens, and then weeks where decades happen. So, the team could trade Paddock and Vasquez this week, and then everything is all of a sudden crazy. But yeah, I mean, this has been like nothing. But I mean, I think 4 of these spots are solidified. Like it's going to be Lopez, Ryan, Ober, Woods Richardson. No matter what happens, like those 4 will be in the rotation. I think if Paddock leaves, it'll be Festa or Zebby, probably Festa. I don't foresee any, outside additions coming to the rotation. So I think, it's actually a pretty nice spot to be in as a Twins fan. Like we have four rotation spots filled. 3 of them are with above average players. The 4th one is with a relatively young pitcher who could become above average. And then there's the Festa Zebby 5th spot if Paddock leaves. So I think they actually are in a pretty good spot rotation wise, and there shouldn't be any gripes with it. I don't think personally.
Yeah.
You're never going to stop me from griping about things.
Never.
That's true. Yeah.
Never, ever. Okay, so which of the Pablo Lopez, Joe Ryan, or Bailey Ober do you think is going to finish the season as the best pitcher in the rotation? Or if there's somebody else, maybe, but I think it's kind of consensus, those 3 above everybody else. Who do you trust to be the best? Because we've seen kind of high upside from all 3 of them, and last year is kind of a mixed bag for a few of them. So what do you think, Greg?
I mean, I don't know. I'm a Bailey Ober fanboy, but it's really hard for me to bet against Pablo Lopez.
Sure.
It was a disappointing season for him last season. I say that about a guy who still pitched really well. He's got a very high bar. I think that at the end of the season, Pablo Lopez is going to be your number 1 starter still. You'll see flashes from the other guys, but it's hard to bet against Pablo Lopez right now.
Yeah. Pablo, even last year, was going through kind of that same thing where he started off kind of slow or went through a lull in the middle of the season, but then turned things around in the second half. And then it was like, his last 2 or 3 starts were super derailed just kind of after such a really hot streak. So I could see that for sure. Cody, what do you think out of those 3 arms?
Yeah, I think it's going to be Joe Ryan.
Okay.
I know last year, before he got hurt, I honestly thought he was the team MVP. I thought he was performing at a all-star worthy rate. I feel like he was a snub almost in the all-star game. I'm very, very high on Joe Ryan. I think he finally has his secondary pitches figured out. I love the gyro slider, Greg, that he has. I think it's a very good secondary pitch. What?
The Euro slider.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know.
It's a pun joke. It's fine.
He also has a the splitter kind of still uses a change. So I'm very excited about him. I think he could be a bona fide top 20 pitcher in baseball. I'm kind of interested with ownership change, if they will explore a extension with him next offseason. If he does perform well, maybe the Ishbias or somebody will actually give him some money. So we'll see. But no, I'm very, very high on Joe Ryan. I think he could be like an actual ace type pitcher next year.
Let's see. So he has 2025 and then 2 more years, I want to say, of club control. Does that sound right?
Yes.
Yeah. And he's
okay.
28.
This is his first year
6 months right now.
Okay. Yeah, that'll be interesting to see, I guess.
I can't. I don't know. I cannot talk myself into extending any pitcher in their 30s. I don't know if that's just me being a nerd or something, but I don't know. If I can get a pitcher through his 30s, I'm happy sending him up the crick to somebody else and getting the compensation pick.
Then again, I guess I'd be really excited if they went out and got somebody, with 1 or 2 years of club control and then look to extend them like they did with Pablo. You know what I mean? So I can definitely see both sides of that. Cool. Okay. Well, any other thoughts on the rotation here before we move on to the bullpen group?
It just feels surreal that Ryan and Ober are almost 30.
Yeah.
We only have 3 years of service time, but they're still like very good arms. It's just like it happened very late in their careers, which is not a bad thing, but it's just interesting. I mean, it's a side point, but
our little boys are all grown up. Wait, Cody, you're definitely younger than them, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm 24.
Yeah, okay.
So I'm Sims age basically.
You're like Zebby. Okay, cool.
It is weird to like look at a rotation and see 3 or 4 29-year-olds just sit like that's. I don't know. That's
like Bailey Ober is older than Chris Paddock. Like that doesn't feel right.
Yeah, that's interesting. I never thought about it like that. That's crazy.
Like next year, it's going to be led like 2 years from now. You're going to have 3 31-year-olds if they're still around, and then they're all going to be gone at once. That is a weird.
But they're going to feel like 24. Like I don't know. I have a.
Well, they all got started. I mean, like not Lopez, but Ryan and Ober got started so late. I mean, the Twins traded for Joe Ryan when he was 25.
Yeah. And then we were having debate over Ober, being at AAA, and that was like less than 2 seasons ago, and it's like he was 27 at that point. That's just absurd. Like,
yeah,
oh, wow.
He's a kid. He's a child.
Just a baby. Okay. Well, how about this? Let's move on over to the bullpen here. Actually, I think Zips just came out with their projections for the Twins last week, and they think the Twins will have the best bullpen in baseball, I want to say, at least in terms of ERA.
Yes.
But here's the group that RosterResource has for the Twins bullpen. They have Joan Duran closing. Then they have Griffin Jacks, Cole Sands, and Brock Stewart as kind of the primary setup guys. Then Jorge Alcala, Michael Tonkin, Cody Funderburk, and newbie Iverson Castellano, the Rule 5 draft pick as the long man, maybe kind of a swing role. I don't know. Real quick before we get into the big thoughts, Iverson Castellano, do we think they're actually going to give him a real shot in the big leagues to come out of the spring training onto the opening day roster? What do we think?
Yes, yeah? I absolutely do think so.
Okay.
I don't know. I think that this is like I wrote something about this a while back, but I think that they have a bullpen right now that actually desperately needs a long man because they have so many guys who you could, at minimum, you could squint and say that's a 7th inning setup guy, like a 6th, 7th inning setup guy. And then you've got like Michael Tonkin, who's a rubber arm. And then it's like, okay, so if you don't want to throw Tonkin one day, who are you going to throw to eat up innings? You actually kind of need a long man right now. Mm-hmm. And that's what Castellano is like locked in to do. Like you have to let him do that to prevent yourself from throwing out somebody like Jorge Alcala to eat innings or like Justin Topa, who's not on this list right now, but like will be up. Like it prevents you from, throwing your 6th, 7th inning guys and just saying, go throw 40 pitches. Because that's kind of how this bullpen is set up right now, where you've got like you don't have a ton of guys who you just want to say throw until your arm falls off.
Yeah.
Well, if you look at what this front office has done in the past, I mean, Tyler Kinley, that was in 2017. They gave him a shot. I mean, they ultimately sent him back to Miami, but they did give him a shot. So, I mean, this is 7 years later, 8 years later. And I know Zoll played a pretty integral role in getting Castellano. Like I know Zoll was really high on him and actually looked to trade for him before the Rule 5 draft. So, I mean, it probably is like a completely different situation. I don't know how much influence Falvey had on that, decision. But overall, I think they will give him a opportunity. It's just like, what if it's early April and he has to throw 4 innings because Paddock had to get pulled in the second, and then it's like, okay, you can't option him, so now you're down to a 7-pitcher bullpen for a couple of days. So there's some interesting dynamics, but overall, I think that they will give him a shot. I just don't know if he will last the whole season in Minnesota.
I'm so curious about that long man role, somebody that can really sop up some innings and everything, because I'm more under the impression that a team, if you're going to do that, you need two guys that can do that in the bullpen. And if you're not going to have two, then you should just go with what the Twins have done the last 4 or 5 years, which is just a ton of fungible, interchangeable arms between, the back end of the bullpen and the AAA roster that you can kind of just shuttle back and forth between, because we've seen it a few times where they've tried to have a long man. They tried to have Randy Dobnak out there, and then he wouldn't pitch for like 10 days in a row, and then it would just be a wasted roster space essentially. So I feel like you almost need to have either 1.5, 2 of those kind of long man arms. Maybe that's Michael Tonkin taking on a 2-inning, 2.5, 2 2/3 inning role, something like that you can kind of alternate with Castellano, especially considering that you can't send Castellano back to the minor leagues at all. So he's going to be, if they're going to try it, he's going to be kind of stuck up there.
He's just going to say he's got some shoulder tendonitis,
sure.
And then he's going to go away for 15 days. And then maybe, do a rehab in the minors. He's got 30 days to be on a rehab. Maybe we send him down there for 20 days.
Greg, we can't see your face, but I can tell you're just winking nonstop as you're saying this entire.
Not that I would ever accuse any Major League Baseball team of impropriety, but we've seen it before. We've seen it before.
Oh man. Okay. How about this? I have a couple questions with this bullpen. They have Yohan Duran as the closer, but let's just say the top arm. He's the most trusted, in high leverage situations. Do you think that's going to be Duran by the end of the season, or will it be Griffin Jacks or one of the other pitchers as the top dog in the bullpen or the top gun?
End of the season.
Yeah.
How about first day?
You think day one?
I mean, yeah, I think Jax is the most trusted arm in the bullpen right now. I mean, Duran will be the closer. I don't know if it will get to a point where Jax transitions into like the solidified closing role.
Sure.
There also is the reality where Duran gets moved at the trade deadline or even the rest of this offseason. I mean, it's not an impossibility. I mean, I don't foresee it, but there's a lot there's a lot of unknown with Duran, and where he's at with this team, or if he's even on the team come October, is going to be a pretty big storyline, I think, personally.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, how about this? Any names that are not currently on this list that you expect to be major contributors to the bullpen come the end of the year? I'll throw one out there, and that's Mr. Louis Varland. I think that he's going to be a good piece out of the bullpen, and Zips kind of liked they liked what they were going to see from him next year too. Any names that come to mind for you guys?
Yeah, I like Varland. I also, as Greg mentioned earlier, Topa. I think Topa will make the opening day roster. I think Funderburk will probably start the year in AAA if everything works out perfectly health-wise. Ronnie Henriquez, too. I wrote about him recently at Twins Daily. He has no more minor league options left, so if he performs well in spring training, I could see them having him start the season on the 26-man roster and then have both Funderburk and Topa in AAA just to prioritize depth to begin the season. Travis Adams is also an intriguing arm. I don't really know if their plan is to have him be a starter or reliever, but I could see Travis Adams stepping into a relief role. Also Brent Hedrick too. And there's another lefty they just signed. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but I think it's Anthony
Misowicz.
Yeah, he can maybe actually, like, given how thin the depth is at left-hand reliever. There is some intrigue there with him, but I know there's another young lefty too, Greg. I know you're going to write about him soon.
It's already up. It
is?
Just got posted 2 hours before we started recording.
Oh, I'm behind.
Connor Prelip, if he is healthy, and by all accounts he is, Connor Prelip should be like a significant arm out of this bullpen, like as early as like late May, early June, to be honest with you.
Really?
His slider looked good down in low and high A last season. So he threw like 20 innings last season. So if the listeners don't remember this guy, he was the Twins' second round draft pick in 2022. He was a potential like number one candidate as a starting pitcher out of, was he Alabama? And he had to get Tommy John. He came back briefly in 2023 through like 2 innings, and then they decided they needed to redo it essentially. And so they went in and they put in an internal brace. So it's just been one injury, but at the same time, he also has pitched, I think, under 60 innings since 2019 when he was in high school. So there's a lot of question marks. However, by all accounts, right now, he has a major league fastball and potentially a plus slider right now as we speak. He's 24 years old and he's got a usable changeup. And so if you look across the division and you look at maybe like how the White Sox brought Garrett Crochet along, it could make a lot of sense to turn Prelip loose in this bullpen. Like as soon as he shows that he has a little bit of command over his two best pitches, he would be a better left-handed arm than anybody else in this Twin system right now, and probably anybody else that they would bring in anytime between now and the end of the year.
Justice for Danny Coulomb. Are you kidding me? Come on now.
But if you look how the White Sox handled Crochet, he was out of the pen. He also had injuries. But he spent like 4 years in the pen. It makes sense that if you're just trying to get like Connor Prelip like 50 innings this year, they might as well be out of the major league bullpen. So look out for that. I am also very curious about Ronnie Henriquez as well, Cody. I thought that your write-up was good. I feel like he's going to be like one of those guys where we're going to get to the end of spring training, and when there's that single day where everybody gets waived, the Twins are probably just going to try to hope and pray that he clears waivers. But
I mean, it happened once.
There's literally like one spot in this bullpen right now that is open, and he's competing with Topa, Funderburk, Hedrick, the whole 9 yards.
Harlan, and Adams. Yeah.
So I don't know, but I hope that they are able to keep him around, because I think that at bare minimum, he's going to be a good middle reliever.
I think it would be smart, honestly. I also want to say, too, Prelip was born and raised in Toma, Wisconsin, so he pretty much is hashtag one of us. He basically is, right?
Pretty much. That's where you
They have reciprocity, don't they?
They do, yeah. I went to
they're treated as in-state students, so
yep, I had the same tuition rates.
It's one state, right? Minnesota and Wisconsin are just one state. That's how that works, right?
Yeah. Okay. Sure, Greg. You know what? I think the biggest thing for me with this bullpen, you know, we've seen they've had the most success converting starting pitchers into relievers. Just look at the base of their bullpen: Duran, Jax, Sands. They were all former starting pitcher prospects. I'm curious if they're going to try to add another one to that group of guys that like, you know, our depth of the rotation is pretty solid right now. Let's throw this guy in the bullpen and just let him go loose. And hopefully he can be another one of that back end triple-headed monster they got there. So that'll be curious to watch too.
We also
he could be a number one.
I feel like we brushed over Stewart's health too. That's a concern. Stewart's shoulder. If he's healthy, he could be elite again, but that's something to keep an eye on.
He's been elite for like 20 innings a year for the last couple of years. Like
elite quarterback Joe Flacco, elite reliever Brock Stewart.
Yeah.
No, that is a huge question. And that also, I think, is one of the reasons that the Twins have not moved somebody like Ronnie Henriquez, or like tried to already sneak him through waivers, because you're going to like I said, there's only like one spot open in this bullpen right now. Assuming that Iverson Castellano makes the team and they don't send him back to Philadelphia or like trade for his rights or whatever. But also like Brock Stewart, there's a few guys in this bullpen who you could very easily see, you know, not being able to start the season healthy. And so you want to keep around somebody like Henriquez because there might be a spot there for him to fill.
Yeah. Very interesting. I think this is also a group that we're going to see added to, not because they necessarily need somebody, but I think they're going to see some veteran shakeout that they come on a minor league deal, you know, with an invite to spring training, something like that. I could see this group changing too. Any other thoughts before we move on over to the next segment?
I don't know if I've ever been as excited about a Twins pitching core than I am right now.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to be a homer, but like we've experienced some really, really, really bad pitching cores. We've had some years where we've seen the Twins like have a pretty solid starting rotation and a trash bullpen. Yeah. Some years where the rotation is trash, but the bullpen is something to get excited about. I don't know, man. This is as good as I remember it being, just kind of as like a complete package, at least. I don't think that it's like the highs on either end, but like as a complete package, I don't know.
And in 2023, when it was Lopez, Gray, Malley, who were the other Maeda, like Ober, like I was pretty excited about that group, and I was like, this was gonna, this is legit. But this year, yeah, I'm pretty excited too. I think it's not too far off.
Dude, there was years in, between 2011 and 2016 where Twins fans would have killed to have a Zebby Matthews or a David Festa slotted into as like the 2 or 3 starter. You know what I mean? Just like, a top pitching prospect. We're going to let them loose. And now they're not even in the projected rotation to come out of opening day.
Kyle Gibson had a whole career out of being like kind of exciting and throwing a 93 mile an hour fastball.
With a opening day starter Vance Worley.
Kyle Gibson's still a free agent, right?
Yep.
Should the Twins sign Kyle Gibson? ? Oh man, the people are asking. All right, well, how about this? Let's put this one to bed for now, and we will go on to our next segment. Really quick edition of everybody's favorites. That's Greg's Gripes. Right, you all know the deal. Greg needs a little opportunity to get something off his chest here. He's always got something grinding his gears. Greg, you have the floor. What's going on today, my friend?
Well, first of all, I'm kind of ticked off at StreamYard for cutting the 1, 2, 3, 4 out of the Greg Scripes theme. But okay, so I bought my wife we updated her wedding ring this Christmas, so that was nice. She saw my tweets, she saw the Salma Hayek tweets, and she said, you've messed up, Greg. You need to buy me a new ring, whatever. And so we ordered it, and it got shipped through FedEx. And I've got to say, like, trying to keep track of like an expensive and important package on FedEx is among the most frustrating experiences of my life. I did not get any notification that it was even on its way. And then I got a notification that they'd attempted delivery that morning. And there was a note on the door. And then for the next 3 days, they allegedly attempted a delivery, but the image that I kept getting was just the original image of the first note on the door. They never rang. They never showed up. One of them was at 6:20 in the morning. And I know for a fact that there's nobody delivering FedEx packages to residential addresses at 6:20 in the morning. And finally, so my wife, goes to the actual FedEx place, and that was on the note, and she's like, "Hi, can I just figure out where this is so I know what to do?" And they were like, "We don't know where it is. I'm sorry, we don't know how to help you." And she was in there for like 45 minutes, and eventually they were like, "Oh wait, actually we have it in the back," and they just scurried back and grabbed it for her. And it was, I don't know, man, like, what is FedEx doing? Maybe I'm a partisan hack about these things, but FedEx, get your stuff together. This is a very personal gripe, but I just had to send it out into the ether. I don't know, man. FedEx, where do you get off?
That's what you get for being down bad on Maine.
I don't know what that means.
Down bad on your main account for Salma Hayek.
You Zoomers and your hip lingo, I have no idea what you're trying to say.
Okay. You were HORNY for Salma Hayek on your main account, and then the repercussions came back, and you had to deal with this, and it's karma. It's instant karma.
I don't believe in your new world hippie religion and karma.
What happened to my
podcast? A very pagan statement I just made.
Yeah.
How dare you?
All right. Well, you know what? This got everybody all fired up. So we're going to move on from this. Greg, great job. We're going to move on to our next segment, which is the closer. So it's been a while since we have had one of our special mailbag episodes. I kind of wanted us to jump right on into the Gleeman and the Geek mailbag episode music. We don't have it on file though, and you know what? No free ads. So it's a mailbag episode, and we got.
Wait, I want to do a really quick free ad. Well, actually, they're sold out. But if you do have tickets and you were saying maybe I don't want to go to the Winter Meltdown, go to the Winter Meltdown anyway. You already bought the tickets, so meet the three of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Face reveal.
Tickets are sold out.
there's going to be a Greg T. Masterson face reveal at the Twins Daily Winter Meltdown this Saturday, January 25th. Is that the date of it?
Yep.
Yeah. So if you have tickets, great. If not, come like stand outside, put your hands up against the glass, and try to peep through to get a peep of Greg's beautiful face.
I was asked, how will I know if I've found you? And I just replied, like, you'll see me and you'll know.
You will know.
And I think that's pretty good.
You will know.
Look up.
that's a good cue. All right. So for the mailbag, Greg, we received a couple questions, if I'm not mistaken. Do you want to start us off with those?
Yes. So number one, oh shoot, I forgot to note who was this was. Oh my gosh. Oh, I'm blanking on who it was. Who do you want?
Start with the question and we'll get back to it.
Sorry. Who do you want Justin Ishbia to trade for at the deadline?
Ooh.
Wasn't that Adam Friedman?
It is Adam Friedman.
Adam,
yes.
friend of the pod. Okay, so we're looking at end of July. Hopefully the Twins are in contention at that point. I hope they're in a position. I know that we're really excited about their rotation and everything, but there's just something so fun about a team going out and getting some like bona fide playoff starter to add to the rotation. So I'm going to say someone who's going to be, a frontline pitcher, a free agent in the next year or two. I'm going to go with Zach Gallen of the Arizona Diamondbacks. Cody, did you have a similar thought?
Yeah, it was Zach Gallen.
Yeah.
Oh.
Great minds.
Yes. Okay.
Is Gallen an impending free agent?
He is. Yep. Yeah. He's on the last.
You guys, have you not been paying attention? The Twins never trade for real names who are impending free agents.
Okay.
Oh, I have another one, but I'll let you guys keep going.
Okay. Bradley Beal, since it's the Ishbias. No, I'm just kidding. Greg, you want to go really quick?
Oh yeah. I mean, I hope that they trade for Yandy Diaz.
Okay.
At the deadline. He is technically an impending free agent, but there's a club option, so go get it.
Even juicier. Yeah. Cody, anybody come to mind?
Starting pitcher, I think maybe Seattle might be struggling at the midseason point. I think the Ishbias will want to do a really big deal. So maybe Luis Castillo, somebody like that.
Okay, that'd be cool. Or really anybody from the Mariners rotation.
Are they ever going to trade one of those guys?
Yeah, I don't know. Here's a name that I don't know necessarily want them for their performance or anything like that, but I would want to see the Twins trade for them just to see Twins Twitter set aflame, and that is Tyler Mahle of the Texas Rangers. I want to see them trade for him yet again. Just make sure you Google Tyler Mahle shoulder injury.
Mahle has like a 2.1 ERA. It's trade deadline season. Breaking news: Twins trade Luke Keeschel for Tyler Mahle.
I mean, what if they wouldn't got Ryan Presley?
That'd be cool too. I'd be fine
they
with
do the
Presley.
old friend thing.
Mm-hmm.
Get the
old friend Jorge
together.
Lopez.
They can keep him.
Starting pitcher Michael Fulmer.
Old friend Emilio Pagan.
Okay, we are
Tyler Austin.
We're
old
rolling.
friend Taylor Rogers. I'm just reading a list of relief pitchers who are going to be a free agents next year, and there are former Twins all over this thing. Liam Hendricks has a mutual option. If you
Taylor
want
Rogers would be fun. Honestly, trade for Taylor and Tyler Rogers. That'd be super fun. Have some Twins on the Twins.
Free agents. So
okay, it must happen.
It must
happen. All right, what's the next question?
So the next question, and this one comes from Twins Takes. Give me 3 realistic Paddock trades. Go.
Ooh. Oh, I got one.
Yeah.
All right. I could see the Toronto Blue Jays pivoting. It's been said that they're talking with Max Scherzer about a potential deal there, but they also just signed Anthony Santander to a 5-year, $92 million contract, something like that. So I could see them being like, that's a decent chunk of change. I'm not sure if we want to go out and promise more to Max Scherzer or another starting pitcher or something like that. Trade Chris Paddock to the Toronto Blue Jays and get maybe a reliever back in return, and they have a veteran reliever named Eric Swanson, who I think is an impending free agent and didn't have a great year last year. He had an ERA up in the 5s, but before that, he had 3 really good consecutive seasons out of the Toronto bullpen. I'd like to see some trade like that, almost like a challenge trade between, 1 year starting pitcher on a really good, financial commitment versus Eric Swanson out of the bullpen. What do you, any specifics for you guys?
I become fixated on him becoming a Sacramento A. I just love that idea. Like, they still need to spend more money, so like that could be part of it. Yeah. I could also see like the Angels being like, this guy's gonna fix our rotation. Yeah. This is the guy who's gonna do it, and then it'll be like another Noah Syndergaard. But yeah, I mean, him sending him out west would be fun. I know he wants to go back to Texas. I don't know how realistic that is, but yeah. I think the A's would be my ideal landing spot.
Cool.
You know what I've kind of become fixated on, and it's very silly, but I want to see him go to Cleveland. They have so much salary room right now. They just offloaded Miles Straw's money. Yeah. And they also offloaded bonus pool money. So that's another $2 million that they don't have to spend on the team. I don't know what they're trying to do over there. I don't know what the plan is to spend that money. But I don't know. Their rotation could probably use like a weird swingman that they think that they can unlock. So trade him over there. And I don't really care what comes back. I just think it would also just be very funny to have Chris Paddock pitching for the Guardians.
Yeah, that would be pretty funny. Love it. All right. Next question.
This one comes from Matthew Trueblood. So he asks if Brennan Bernardino and Cody swapped bodies while thus slept. Not a great editor. That's not some. Maybe want to proofread your own questions. But if Brennan Bernardino and Cody swapped bodies while thus slept, who would be better able to survive their new life? So, little Freaky Friday situation. Cody and Brennan Bernardino. Who would get on better?
I want you guys to answer this.
I think Brennan Bernardino in Cody's body would suffer greatly, and Cody and Brennan Bernardino's body would thrive and become like a late inning weapon out of the Boston.
Do you get to keep the arm? Is that part of Freaky Friday?
For sure. He doesn't keep all the physical traits, and you just it's just the consciousn's that switches.
But so he doesn't inherit Cody's vast knowledge of like English literature.
No, he doesn't.
He's like, I don't remember Lord of the Flies.
Right.
Thank you for always bringing up a Lord of the Flies.
I don't know. When's the last time you think Brennan Bernardino read Fall of the House of Usher? Is that in your curriculum, Cody?
No, I'm a middle school teacher, but
you don't expose them to Poe?
Yeah, I did with Telltale Heart, but I mean that's more of a short story thing. But either way, so I think Bernardino has a form of like financial security that he's like grown accustomed to, and then he'd come to my world and he'd be like, not to say I'm like broke. I'm not trying to paint that picture, but I'm not a baseball player, so it's like. Okay,
as the son of a public school teacher, I get it. I know what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm not, but like, and then so I
quit complaining.
You work 8 months a year, Cody. How much compensation do you want?
Typical teacher. Either way, and then so I turn into him. I'd be, tall baseball player, left-handed, be fun. Yeah. But I'd also be bald.
Ooh.
But I'm losing hair right now, so it's not even like that different. So I mean, there's a clear win here. Plus, I get to live in Boston. Like that'd be cool. Boston's I live in Milwaukee right now. I mean, it's Milwaukee. I mean, it's fine. I mean, I like.
Are
Milwaukee.
You left-handed?
No, I'm right-handed. It'd be cool to be left-handed.
Get ready to learn southpaw, pal.
Does handedness tie to consciousness and the idea of self? Is there a direct?
I feel like if you got like transported into his body, you would retain being right-handed.
Would you? I don't know about that.
Because that's a mental function. Like you have like your strength in your dominant hand, and you have the dexterity in your dominant hand, but there is also like a mental component of having a dominant hand beyond like physical strength and dexterity.
This is
So
intriguing. You know what? Lindsay Lohan is a fan of the show. We'll see what she thinks since she's the resident expert on Freaky Friday. So, Lindsay, please shoot us a text. Let us know what you think. Yeah. I don't know. What a great question
stop
from
texting me. I'm so sick of getting texts from Lindsay Lohan. Like I've already established, I'm happily married. I just bought her a new ring. I don't need to buy another one.
I can hear the gun to Greg's head right now from off screen.
So what I would do is that I would pull up to Red Sox spring training and be like, yeah, I'm ready for the season. I know I got this. And then like 10 minutes in, I throw one pitch. It'd be horrible. I'd be like, yep.
I'm calling it.
This thing's done.
Calling it. Yep. Dr. James Andrews on speed dial.
I take my surgery, but
if you just, if you grabbed, you're like going to throw a slider and you just threw it like you normally would, I think that they would immediately just start operating on your elbow at that point.
Yeah.
Like
even if I didn't tear something, like
something went very wrong. It's time to cut you open. Yeah.
Between that moment and like the x-ray, I would like physically harm myself to make sure that my UCL was torn.
Ew, ouch.
just spend a day at Driveline. They'll do it for you.
They'll do it for you.
Like, hey, Kyle. Hey, Kyle. And then 20 seconds later, my arm is destroyed.
I am not surprised that Cody is envisioning new ways to be paid millions of dollars to not have to work all year. Communist Cody over here just wants a free lunch again.
I'm pretty sure Bernardino also already has accrued enough time that he has the full health insurance for the rest of his life from the MLB Players Union. So that would be cool to have health insurance all taken care of like that. It's
call me a communist. I like to advocate for free healthcare for people who change bodies with professional baseball players and then purposely tear their UCLs. This happens a lot in life. I'm sorry that I advocate for popular issues. Like, sorry.
This is just like Bud Selig, like making all of his all of the new rules for MLB that just mysteriously benefit the Milwaukee Brewers for no clear reason. I can't understand. That was just coincidental. I mean, any team who is named after beer makers should just, get a few extra $1 million just in case it happens. I think it happens quite frequently, but just in case it happens, I think that law should be on the books. And then he calls his daughter and, you're not changing the team name anytime soon, are you?
Did Bud Selig allegedly went to the middle school I teach at?
Really?
Allegedly?
Yeah, along with Oprah, not at the same time. But let me see if that's actually
real.
Are you just making things up?
No, I'm being the Oprah one is like 100% for real. But let me see if the Bud Selig one is. I'll get back to you real quick.
All right. Okay. While he looks that up, let's boogie on over to our walk-off question before we bid adieu. I
forgot we had that. Sorry.
Yep. Real quick. Walk-off question. It is currently negative 12 degrees at Target Field. Ooh, feels like negative 29. What do you think would happen if the Twins were forced to play a game at Target Field under those conditions? I will go first. I think Byron Buxton would officially be the first player to go on the injured list with frostbite. Ouch, it would be him. Jeez. All right, Greg, how about you? What do you think would happen if they had to play in negative 12 degrees?
I definitely see Carlos Correa's ankle that's filled with metal or his leg that's filled with metal. There's going to be some issues there. Metal grows in the cold. And so, you might have like a compound fracture thing. Somebody might see it sticking out, lick it, lick a cold pole.
Naturally, they would lick his leg.
It would be pure pandemonium. Cody understands. He's working with middle schoolers. These things happen all the time. The thing that I'm really curious is if it gets that cold, are we going to start seeing Metrodome doubles where just like 6 hoppers through the infield, they're going to roll all the way to the wall because they're essentially just playing on concrete when it's, negative 15. It's like you're dealing with like permafrost at that point. There's nothing to slow it down. It's just going to skip to the wall every single time.
Austin Martin comes rolling in. He's like, "You love me now. You love me now."
Austin Martin would be the greatest player ever at negative 15 degrees.
Austin Ted Williams Martin. He. What do you think, Cody? Any thoughts spring to mind?
I lied to you. Bud Selig did not go to the middle school I teach at. He went to Washington, which is now a high school. But he did not. But Oprah did. Oprah for real did.
Too late.
Which is actually even
Stop
more
doxing
impressive.
Yourself.
What?
You're doxing yourself.
No, if you Google my name, you'll see my name on the staff of the middle school, which is also me kind of doxing myself too. So
get ready, comment, Cody.
Okay, wait, here. So the frozen target field. Okay, so remember back in the day when Bud Grant used to wear short sleeve T-shirts at the stadium?
Yeah, I remember when men were men.
The Met. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, when men were men, or when Buds were men. So, okay, sorry, very scattered. I doxed myself and now I can't think straight. Rocco Baldelli would never walk out to target field in short sleeve T-shirts like Bud Grant did, and I think that's an indictment on him as a Minnesota coach. I mean, I know obviously TK would walk out with short sleeves on. Let me think. I don't think Chris Finch would. So that's kind of why the Wolves are struggling right now. So I think if you're going to judge a Minnesota head coach or manager, it's based off if they wear short sleeves in cold weather. All that being said, I actually do think Rocco's a good manager, so I'm just doing a bit right now.
Okay.
But
he's listening.
He is. No, and I'm sorry, Rocco.
Hour and 11 minutes in, Rocco Baldelli is like, are they going to talk about me?
The wound socket rocket was mentioned.
Yes, there we go.
You can hang up now, Rock.
Sorry, that was very scattered. But overall, Rocco would not wear short sleeves.
Okay, all right. Well,
I can't imagine how many injuries there would be.
Oh yeah, or just retirements on the spot. Yeah, well, okay. Well, I'm glad we thought about that though. That's pretty fun. Before we say goodbye, Cody and Greg, anything you want to plug from twinsdaily.com?
I do want to mention that, obviously we talked about Eloy Jimenez signed with the Rays a couple, like a month ago now. There are some other right-handed hitting first basemen with power bats who are still available on minor league deals. Greg, can you think of any the Twins could possibly sign?
Should the Twins sign Miguel Sano?
Had to team up right before.
I'm sorry, we had to do it.
Yep.
Oh, no. So, no, I wrote about Matt Wallner and kind of what he needs to do to replicate Kepler's defensive production in right field next season, and if he could ever become like elite, like Max was. So I'm looking forward to that being published soon.
Cool. Greg, anything you want to plug for us?
Yeah, I'm going to list off everything that I've written in the last year just so that we can keep Lou on this call just a few minutes more.
Good. It's not like we're running long.
No, I'm good.
Really? Okay. Well, check out all of the fine content over at twinsdaily.com. There's always something good. There's always some conversations to be had about our beloved Hometown 9. But for Cody and Greg, I am Sweet Lou Hennessy. Good night, everybody, and stay sweet!